are here today for one of our Vice-Chancellor's breakfast, and we are here to have a dialogue and conversation around the issue of consent and power dynamics. In a university setting, the issues of power and consent remain a big challenge. And oftentimes, people look at the issue of consent as either just simply saying yes or no. And it is not, because the reality is that relationships and how people interact on campus is based on power imbalances. So it's the person, a student's future, for example, is dependent on the person who assesses them, who marks their papers, the person who teaches them. And as a result, that already creates a power dynamic.
So normally you would think if someone consents to a relationship, then it's an equal relationship. What's wrong with that? That would be personal discretion. I think it takes some education and reflection to understand that you're in a position of power, which complicates consent. And even if it seems that someone is keen, that you just don't go there because of the nature of that power relationship. That takes a certain amount of reflection that I think we don't normally see in ordinary relationships. There's extraordinary responsibilities that come with that.
Today's dialogue is very important for me. I'm very pleased. I spent, 3 hours here? 3 hours. And it's 3 hours spent very productively in a dialogue between students, staff, and us, senior management in the university, talking about these issues, the pitfalls of what we call consent, for example. What is consent? And that's the most important thing. And I think one person at the end summarized it nicely, that for students, even a yes means a no. And therefore for staff, even when there is an expressed yes or some other kind of consent, you should know it's a very dangerous terrain.
From a student perspective, power dynamics does affect student life or on campuses in a very negative way, as there are some boundaries that are crossed where students don't feel safe to report their cases, students don't feel safe in their own study environment. So there are those boundaries that are crossed most of the times, and it's what we should be looking into, make students aware of reporting mechanisms, how they can be safe within campuses, and how they can ensure that their safety is not compromised in any way.
No human being should be subject to any harm. And forms of violence, especially violence against women, against young women, against transgender women, against the LGBTQI communities, any harm that is inflicted on those persons is not acceptable, right? And the time that we are spending to educate, to create awareness around harms inflicted by gender-based violence, harm inflicted by sexual assault, harm inflicted by sexual harassment, for instance. And most times we don't think that there is harm on the individual experiencing sexual harassment. So we should be paying attention to any form of harm that might be inflicted on an individual, because we do not understand and appreciate the extent of that harm.
As staff members of the university, it is our responsibility to hold each other accountable, and that responsibility starts with each and every one of us. I believe we need to normalize this kind of conversations and be bold enough when we see injustices. We should be bold enough to speak up, because today it may be a colleague or a student, but tomorrow it may be your daughter. Each and every one of us can contribute meaningfully to this agenda, and I believe that we will not give up. We will continue until each and every young girl and woman feels safe to walk in the street.